unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
So, about a half a dozen people have asked me over the last week, what do I think about Kanye? Half a dozen. That's like 6. It's exactly 6. It's also the exact amount of people who listen to this podcast, which means 100% of you have requested me my thoughts on Kanye. And guess what? I have some. Can you believe it? Can you believe that I have an opinion on what's going on with Kanye? The problem is the Kanye topic really can be divided into a lot of topics. It can be divided into ego. It can be divided into narcissism. It can be divided into how society deals with people who think for themselves. Kanye really represents a lot of stuff. Fame, Christianity, to and from, religion. That little dude he's covering a lot of bases. And I guess that's what makes him so interesting, you know. And I sometimes wonder how much he's in control of all that, or how much, you know, it's just the randomness of the world and how people are sort of, you know, some people really pursue fame relentlessly. Others pursue it a little bit, and then they become these enigmatic, you know, characters that people just can't avoid no matter what, you know. So it's almost like their fame is self-sustaining. I don't know if his is one of those. What do you think? Do you think his it's almost as if his fame is by now is self-sustaining, or is it? Anyway, I have watched 3 or maybe 4 full Sunday services, Kanye Sunday service. And I'll tell you one thing. If the Mormon Church had been that uplifting or inspiration, or just that, if it had that kind of power in the music, you know, I might have left anyway for philosophical reasons, you know, and air quotes intellectual reasons. But boy, you kind of feel ripped off when you see one of those black churches with the big choir and all singing their asses off. We sang, Mormons, we sang too, but it was solemn. You know, you sat down. The rhythms were pretty boring. You know, there's some pretty songs. God Be With You Till We Meet Again is one of my favorites. That was a nice one. Good sentiment, you know. And that's the whole thing with religion. You know, I left religion in my mid-20s and felt resentment towards it for a long time. I felt like I'd been lied to and fooled and bamboozled out of my best years, and etc., because my assumption was that they knew that it was just a bunch of crap they were giving me. And when I say crap, at first I thought it was just blatant, you know, lies. And of course, lies come in all forms. Is Dr. Seuss telling lies? You know? Did Shakespeare tell lies? Is art all a lie? Anyway, so watching these Kanye Sunday services, it again reiterates the power of music. And if anybody could ever, you know, force me into a corner, into pick what religion is, or what religion should be, or what spirituality is, or where the magic is, I would have to say it's in music, harmony. and whether it be 2 strings or 5 strings on a guitar that are creating a harmony, or on a piano, or in a full orchestra, there's an undeniable magic of people singing together. It's off-puttingly magic in a way. It's so powerful to me that it borders on dangerous. We can see the power of music and how it can drive people to war. The drums of war. It's a real thing. It's not just a metaphor. You can get everybody chanting and singing a certain way, and it doesn't matter who you are. There's this power to that. I don't want to call it unity, but harmony. And harmony is different though than just unity and unison. Chanting is typically in unison. I'm talking about the USA. People don't typically harmonize when they do that, but when you're doing harmony, boy, it can get really, really powerful. And depending on the musical scales, there's magic there, and it's probably because the whole universe is made out of vibrating matter, energy, and when you tap into it, nature's rewarding you, saying, yeah, do that. Why? I don't know. Nature creates earthquakes. Nature creates hurricanes. Nature creates all kinds of things, and finding a resolution of what's the good things and what are the bad things, Well, an earthquake is bad, and a light rain is good. Yeah, well, the earthquakes created the mountains, It's like the yin and the yang. Anyway, Kanye. So, it absolutely makes complete sense to me that Kanye would end up being where he is. Because I don't know that there is a person alive today that, besides myself, who exemplifies thinking independently more than Kanye. Or just at least having that desire to think independently. He definitely seems to be a contrarian in many ways. He doesn't like to be told what he can do, what to do or what not to do. But I don't want to diminish his decisions to just that. He also seems like he is a very thoughtful person. Now, thoughtful people can disagree greatly on details. One person can think for years on a subject, and another person can think the same amount of time, and they come up with opposite viewpoints. But the thing that the thoughtful people seem to have in common is that you can spot another thoughtful person, and at least you can recognize their process. You can recognize that time had gone into it. There's a reason. It's not just a reaction. They didn't just adopt somebody else's thought process. And Kanye does not seem to be a guy who just adopts other people's thought processes. Now, I can hear you. You're saying, but when he just adopts Christ and Christianity, isn't that what he's doing? I don't know. I kind of see Kanye doing what I've been doing recently, or over the last maybe 6 years or 7 years, which is, I think Kanye is doing it differently than me. I'm going to impose. Okay, so music's super powerful, right? Christianity to me is the most preferred religion of all the religions I see out there. Judaism also seems pretty good. Judeo-Christian values are pretty good. I might even feel like I belong more with Judaism because they embrace doubt a lot more than Christianity does. Christianity has this tidy, nice little metaphor, this little answer that is kind of nice when you break it down as a metaphor or as an analogy or as like art. When you watch a Sunday service and you watch 50 people singing in unison about Christ or God, this outside force that can't be cuffed and dragged into court to answer any questions, but this outside force that is all-knowing, omniscient, all-powerful, completely outside of yourself, but that also loves you individually and loves everyone individually. That's a pretty good premise. You know, it fits with my radical individualism. It's like, why? Why should an individual be important? Well, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. So let's just design an answer for that. God, because God, the creator of everything, created you. And he doesn't have any favorites. Right? And he literally loves you, at least somebody. And why not have it be the best somebody, the one who created everything, the all-knowing? It's like, it's the ultimate name drop to say that Jesus is your friend. You know? And the beautiful thing about saying Jesus is your friend is that he's not going to embarrass you by appearing on TV or tweeting that you're an idiot. He's not going to do it. So you can say he's your friend, the guy who knows everything, the guy who's the best, the hottest, funnest, greatest dude, you know, because I like to think of Jesus as fun. You know, he's your friend. It's a pretty good premise. You know, I like it. And I can see how Kanye has ended up there. Because when you look at all the pressure and the weird stuff that fame has brought him when he's pursuing his own thing, I don't know if you've watched the interviews. I just kind of went down the Kanye rabbit hole over the last couple of weeks, but watching tons of interviews. And he's a really confusing character to watch, and it seems like he's got a lot of, you know, he's still doing a lot of thinking, you can tell. And he's not, I don't think he's the best at articulating what he's thinking. Like when he goes off on a tangent that I'm the best artist of all time, I'm thinking, well, geez. That's, I mean, the great thing about art is you're always right and wrong about your opinion. So as a critic, I can't challenge Kanye on that. If he believes he's the greatest of all artists of all time, well, then absolutely, according to Kanye, he is. If he is his biggest fan and he likes his art more than any other art that's ever been created, he's entitled to that opinion. You can't really. It's weird. It's weird to hear. You know, it's kind of like the result of teaching, you know, the Mr. Rogers method to everybody. You're special. And I don't have a problem with that either. It's kind of the Jesus method. And, you know, on the one hand, you got that. On the other hand, it can go too far. That's the weird thing about everything, right? When you break down religion as a metaphor, this wonderful premise that God loves you, the creator of everything, or just everything, is the way I look at it. I just go, not the creator of everything, but just the existence of everything. Mere existence, saying that that is God. You know, people ask me if I'm, you know, religious, and I say I'm an atheist, but because it's easy, because I don't typically believe in God the way most people believe in God, which is some sort of human-like personage that just literally sat down at a, you know, with some beakers and maybe some algorithms and literally created everything. Could be. I doubt it. But instead, I just like to look at everything, the existence of everything. I just think, wow. And when you look at it in its totality and its hugeness, that to me is just like, why not just the unfathomability of it all? That's God enough for me. But it doesn't really work to say, yeah, I believe in God, when that's the definition. I just pretty much, I don't even have to say that I believe in everything, because that's stupid. I I acknowledge everything. I can see it. I don't need to believe in the power of music because I can see it. I can feel it and I can witness it. I don't need to believe in the sky because I can see it. I don't need to believe in love because I can feel it. I don't need to believe in my dog because I can feel it. You know? So when people ask me if I believe in God, I'll probably say no because it will be their definition. They will somehow wrangle it into this smaller definition than I have. And I just don't see any belief required for experiencing the miracle of everything. Faith isn't required. Belief isn't required for the way I observe the universe. And it's completely a miracle anyway. Like, I guess that's what I'm saying about religion. I'm realizing for guys like Kanye, who left to his own devices, might not know how to manage individualism. He might turn it all inwards, an ego thing. But that's not what individualism is. It's really frustrating when I tell people that I'm a radical individualist and they don't understand what I'm talking about. When I say I'm a radical individualist, that doesn't mean that I'm self-centered. It means that I believe that the individual is the most important component of everything. I'm a decentralist, and here's an analogy. If $1 is worth nothing, then how much is $1 million worth? Exactly, nothing. It's just heavy. It's heavier. And that's kind of a Christian concept. Or I don't know if it's a Christian concept. The Christians, whoever developed that way of thinking, I think was thinking along the same lines as I am. This decentralist way of thinking, that if we believe that the individual is the most important component of society, that all policy and all effort should be directed towards uplifting and focusing importance on the individual, then the value of society rises exponentially. It's just not putting the cart before the horse, You raise the value of $1 to raise the value of $1 million. So individualism isn't this inward thing. It's an outward thing. It's by saying I value you as an individual. Not me as an individual. Of course, that goes without saying, but I value you as an individual, and you as it's a way we treat others. You see what I'm saying? I know it can kind of look like a collectivism thing, but it's not. It's placing the value on each person and not the group, and demanding that they do that the same. And what I see happening with Kanye is this thing that I've noticed the whole way along. Like when I was when the newspapers in Provo, Utah were, and this is a true thing, were writing about my teaching style, there was a little controversy. An article came out about me, the long-haired guy who was teaching Sunday school at a BYU ward, and I didn't go to BYU. So should I even be in the BYU ward? I wasn't obeying the dress code because I didn't have my hair cut. I had long sideburns, maybe even a goatee, and I was teaching Sunday school, and people liked it. And somebody wrote an article about it, and there was a controversy about it. I guess really the controversy was that I was having success. And what was that success? What was the thing that I noticed even back then is I kind of steered clear of Mormon doctrine. And I always put any lesson that I had, I would drive it back into basically service and helping others, being selfless. Because in my experience, in my stupid experience on earth, when you're in the service of others, when you're helping others, it's the most, you get more reward than anything, which is why I'm so off put by people who try to compel people to be nice. You can't. The only way, the greatest reward you can have is by volunteering and being charitable and helping others. But if you compel somebody to do that, you rob them of literally the greatest reward they could ever have, which is voluntary service. It's so offensive to me for anybody to step in and rob people of that opportunity. The government is constantly stealing that opportunity. Anyway, I digress, and back to Kanye. But I see Kanye kind of doing a restructuring. I think the lights have come on, and he's realized that the only way he can truly have real happiness is by being in service to others. And I feel like he's using Christianity, or Christianity is showing him how to do that. At least the church services that he's creating and the people that are around him. I believe that a lot of religion formed for that reason. And I think it might be because a lot of people just don't have it within them to accept religion as a metaphor. They need it to be real. And that's where it gets dangerous, you know? I'm happy with things being metaphors. I don't require Dr. Seuss to reference real things, you know? I don't require the Wizard of Oz to be real. It doesn't have to be real. You know, I can live with the metaphors, and I can go, okay, yeah, I love that. I love this lesson that this piece of art teaches. And the art, or the metaphor of Christ and God and Judeo-Christian values, those stories and those ways of conveying those lessons, or at least the message within them, the good part, not the bad part, and you know, I think are genius. I think it's genius to get into a room every Sunday with a bunch of people and have a common purpose, which is uplifting others. I mean, how good is that, right? If you could stick to that, how great would it be? It just so happens that people don't stick to that so often. More often than not, that happens. You know, I was talking with somebody earlier today about just the balance of life, you know. Right now we see the pendulum swinging, and the pendulum seems to be swinging further and further each way, like this far leftist swing towards communism and totalitarianism and authoritarianism is obviously bringing about this hard shift from Generation Z that seems like it might overcorrect and go far to the right again. I'm a guy that thinks, why can't we just kind of relax and keep that pendulum in the middle where it's nice? But I just don't see nature as being that way. You know, the way nature creates balance is with extremes, with opposition, with opposing forces. Like if you look at a man walking a tight wire, you know, with that long balancing pole, the longer that pole is, the more balance he has in the middle. It's the extreme length on both ends that create that center. So it's kind of like how nature works, and nature has its own way of balancing. And I'm seeing Kanye as being part of that pendulum swinging, that balance going back. I hope it doesn't go back too far in the other direction, but I think it probably will. You know, opposition, you know, a force is met with an opposing force of equal or greater value, you know. It's kind of science. If you can take a long view, it's kind of gorgeous, but it kind of sucks in this short view when somebody's telling you you're not allowed to speak because you weren't born the right color. you know. And he's reacting against that. And everybody is. I am. Who's not reacting against this absolute extreme totalitarian control over thought? You know? And that's the funny thing, is it used to be that authoritarian, totalitarian control was on the religious side, you know, or on even amongst the Christians. But now the Christians seem to be, they're the ones that are supporting free speech. It's weird. The pendulum really has swung, you know. It used to be you went to the left for free expression. Now the only place that allows free expression is in the big tent of conservatism. What? Makes no sense. But of course now you see there's another conservatism that's coming up that's calling the centrists, and you know, the moderates are saying that moderates and centrists are useless because they don't fight. Maybe, you know, maybe. It's just the ebb and flow of nature as far as I can see it, and Kanye seems to be acting accordingly, you know. There was a meme that came out that the fact that he's making a Christian album, Jesus is King, is more controversial now than it ever was for a metal band to make an album about the devil. Because now it's all about the devil, you know. So suddenly the Jesus one it's a correction. It's a correction. Kanye's part of the correction. He's part of the pendulum swinging the other way. And quite frankly, I prefer that. I would rather have people being looking at religion intellectually, not, I don't like that word, but looking at it more philosophically than literally, you know. Because philosophically and artistically, there's so much beauty in it. Even in the buildings, even in the outfits, as creepy as they get. It gets creepy when people take it literally. That's when it gets creepy. If people would relax and just go, no. This is just it's a way of viewing things. It's a metaphor for how to step outside yourself. It's a metaphor for everything. It's a metaphor when the God is love and God loves you is a metaphor for you being important. And it's hyperbole. It's it's exaggeration, you know, to emphasize a truth. It's fiction that is designed to tell a large and hopeful truth, you know. It's focus, it's an emphasis on good things instead of an emphasis on not so good things, you know. An emphasis on the nice, you know, light rain rather than on the earthquake, you know. I don't know how much of that was about Kanye, but I relate with it, and I'm glad to see it. I worry, not really, because I don't know Kanye, but just as a metaphor worry, as I worry for any random stranger. I worry that he's going to go too far. I worry that he's going to become overbearing to his wife and kids. I'm worried that he's going to become too preachy, and he's going to ruin it for those around him and himself, you know. I wish people could just be reasonable, you know, not take things too seriously or too literally. And that doesn't mean don't be passionate, but that just means lightening the fuck up, you know. Lighten the fuck up. All of y'all, including me. Anyway, thanks for listening.